jumped on top of the table, and the inmates, they were trying to get him down, and naturally they don't want to touch a naked person too, because nobody wants to fight the naked guy. Good morning, my lovelies, my beauties, my friends. My name is Christina and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, thank you so much for clicking on this video. I really hope that you will subscribe, stick around, take a chance on hearing some things that I have to say. And if you are a returning subscriber, y'all already know, y'all are my babies. I see y'all looking at my broken nail. Please don't try my life, okay? It's sitting right down here too. I got it. I've got all 10 nails. Okay, moving on. So today I am having the pleasure of interviewing and talking to my now new friend. Yay! Isn't she beautiful?
Oh, stop it.
She was a correctional officer in the state of Florida here for 4 years. And she just recently quit, what, 3 weeks ago?
Yeah, about 3 weeks ago.
So she is fresh, okay? This isn't no CO from 10 years ago with stories. This is fresh, the real deal. So I want y'all to go ahead right now and like this video because she is putting herself out there. Alrighty, so let's just get right on into it. What made you decide you wanted to be a CO?
I've always had a love for law enforcement. Going to be a CO was really just a stepping stone to go into the field that I wanted. I never really wanted to stay a CO. I really wanted to build on that, to help people and reach out to people. So being a CO was really just more of a stepping stone, more a foot in the door into the right direction.
You worked in a male's prison.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, do they assign you whether you go to male or female or?
No, whatever prison you apply for, that's the prison you're going to work at.
And that was what, like the closest to you or something?
Yes, that one was the closest one to me.
How is that prison? Is it a rough prison?
It started off as, we actually were known as the cupcake prison. So it started off as, you know, really low key, pretty much the basic stuff that would happen in other prisons.
Basic stuff being fights?
Basic stuff like fights and sometimes people getting high, you know, but not all the time. It was very low key. And then after a couple years, it started to get worse and worse.
Like what?
A big thing that happened that really influenced was when the staffing shortage throughout Florida. Right now, Florida, just the state of Florida, has each prison, not just talking as a whole, but each prison is dealing with either 10 or 25% understaffed. I know that doesn't sound like a big number to some people, but it makes a huge difference. When you start off shift, you're supposed to start off shift with at least 28 to 32 people. And when you're starting shift off with 20 people, it's going to be a long day. It's going to be a long day. So,
and what would make it a long day? Are the inmates more rambunctious or?
Well, yeah, they're more rambunctious because we don't have the staff. We can't do things like have rec or canteen, because if there is nobody to run rec or canteen, then we don't get to run it for the inmates.
And then they're mad.
And then they're mad. But there's really nothing as COs we can do. We can't, you know, just pull random people to come and work for us. So they're upset because they haven't been outside or haven't gone to canteen for 3 days, and now everyone's...
Ooh, 3 days.
Yeah.
Holy cow, I would have been mad.
So everybody's attitudes is right up here, you know, because they haven't been able to go outside. They haven't been able to go to canteen. So as COs, it's really hard because we have to handle that even though there's nothing we can do about the staffing issue.
So what's the craziest thing that you've seen in there?
Oh my goodness. I have seen, it's kind of a funny story, but I mean, it's also crazy too. Me and a sergeant were working a dorm, and this inmate got high, and
What did he get high on?
I think it was K2. I think he got high on K2.
Okay.
But at the time they were lacing it with other stuff. So it was never just K2. It was like K2 mixed with, you know, roach spray or something like that. So he got high. And the other inmates, they were trying to calm him down, you know, trying not to make a fuss. And me and my sergeant, we were watching this and we were monitoring it, you know, making sure, you know, because most of the time if they get high and the inmates can pretty much get them into bed, then there's really not a problem, okay? Well, he started taking his clothes off. all of his clothes, and me and her, we're both girls, so at that point it's like, okay, we officially cannot handle this.
Yeah, you can't put your hands on him, right?
Not like we'd even want to. We're
right.
like, we're done. So we have to call for backup. By that time, he had ran into the day room and he had jumped on top of the table, and the inmates, they were trying to get him down, and naturally they don't want to touch a naked person too, because nobody wants to fight the naked guy. So they had gotten a sheet and they were trying to like grab him with the sheet. Oh my gosh. And while they were doing that, he's running from them. So he gets on top of the table and he grabs their TV, their only TV.
A little tiny TV?
And yes, he grabs it, he falls, breaks the TV. And you gotta imagine, he's doing all this while he's naked, okay?
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where we're trying to supervise, but like we're also, you know,
are you watching through the guard station?
Yes. So we're like supervising, like, okay, I see what's going on. And he breaks the TV. Our inside security comes in. He is not in his right mind, so he's trying to fight him, so they have to spray him. He tries to punch a sergeant in the face. They end up, I think it took like 3 of them to actually take him down, just to lay down and put cuffs on him. That was one of the craziest things I've seen.
Violent thing you've seen.
Okay, one of the most violent things I've seen was, it was actually a dorm I was working. And to this day, I'll never forget it. There was an inmate that would always come and ask me if he wanted to take out my trash, to bring it out when I got relieved so he could take out the trash. So it's around 4:50 to 5 o'clock, so I'm about to get off a shift in like 10 minutes. Well, he had just come up and talked to me about taking the trash out, and I was like, okay, yeah, sure, I'll do it right before I leave, whatever. I had noticed something. You probably have heard of this before, a gunner.
Explain it to them.
Okay. What a gunner is when you're a female working in a male institution, what a gunner is a man who is staring right at you and who is masturbating.
Yep.
So it's a huge no-no anywhere, not just in prison, but anywhere.
Yep.
Okay, it's a sexual charge, it's lewd and lascivious, it's disgusting, don't do it. So when I had looked over there, I saw that there was one gunning me, so I immediately called inside security. They came and they took him away. They thought that this inmate that came up, who asked me every single day at the same time about the trash, had snitched on the guy who was gunning me. So when he went to go sit in the day room, this other guy, who I guess that was his homeboy that got locked up, he goes and he jumps over the benches that are in the day room and hits this one guy in the back of the head with a Loch Ness sock. And what made it so violent and what made it so scarring was that this was an old man, you know, he was an old man. And they hit him so hard in the head, there was blood everywhere, because head wounds are known to just cause huge amounts of blood. So there was blood squirting all over the walls, all over the officer station windows. And me being, you know, I hadn't been there that long. I had just gotten out of the academy, so this was a huge, oh my goodness. And the look on his face, because he looked right at me while he was getting beat up. And the look on his face was like, please help me. But
Gosh.
I was all by myself, you know, I can't run out there. I'm all by myself in the officer station.
Oh my gosh.
So I had already grabbed my radio and I had already called for assistance, but you know, pretty much the damage had already, you know, the blood was still everywhere. I mean, it looked like Bloody Valentine, and it was so bad. He ended up getting transferred. That's probably one of the most violent things.
Gut-wrenching.
And it was, like, to this day, I'll never forget it. And I remember I actually cried going home, because I just couldn't get the look on his face out of my head. And, you know, it's not always like when someone gets beat up, it's never just a, oh, I don't feel sorry for you. You know, I felt sorry for him because he didn't do anything wrong. Yeah. You know, he was just doing that. And what got me is he did this every day. Yeah. You know, he would come up to me every day and tell me this and ask me to take the trash out every single day at the same time. But today they thought he snitched, and that's why he got hit.
That's what I was telling you guys about when I said that snitches do not go over well in prison. And when I said snitches get handled, that's what I'm talking about. Unfortunately, in this situation, he really wasn't a snitch, and he was an older man, and that is absolutely heartbreaking. The guys that you were with, what kind of sentences do they have? Were they up to life, or were they up to a certain amount?
It can range from you having, because what it does is when you go to jail, all they have to do, I think, is to tack on for that prison sentence is to add that 1 extra day.
Yeah.
And so you can get, yeah. So we have, you know, inmates that have a year and a day for something like a DUI, to inmates that have double murder charges and are in there for life. So we're dealing with murderers, rapists, pedophiles, robbers, anything from fraud, loitering, you know, all of that is in the prison. You know, some people that I'm friends with that don't work in the prison, they don't, you know, when I told them I was working there, they had this idea that I'm just in this little bubble and no one can touch me, no one can, you know, whatever. And I told them, I'm like, no, I'm walking side by side with potential rapists and pedophiles. Like, I mean, I'm not naturally, not everybody that's in there is in there for the same stuff.
Right.
But you are with people who have killed people, who have raped people, who have hurt people. I mean, you are walking side to side, sitting as close as we are right now. So it's something that you have to always be aware about. You have to always be ready just in case anything happens. So you do get a lot of inmates that have a lot of different charges. You can pretty much tell if they have the custody of 1 and 2 or the housing level of 1 and 2 that they're in prison for a not so violent crime. You know, it could have been something from a DUI or fraud or something like that. And then if they have a custody or a housing level of 3, 4, and 5, it lets you know that they are in there for a violent crime. So you kind of have an idea of what they're in there for. So as an officer, you can be more aware when you have to counsel with one. It also tells you their EOS year, at least their month and their year. So naturally, if I look and I see that this person, you know, gets out in a year or something like that, he might have not done, and I see that his custody and his housing level is really low, then I'm going to say, okay, he's probably in here for something petty. Yeah. But if I look and I see that they have a life sentence or they don't get out to like 2070 or something like that, then I'm like, okay, you did something really bad, or
you're allegedly
did something really bad. So I have to be aware of that as an officer. I have to take all of this into consideration
when you're interacting and protect yourself. Absolutely. Okay, have you ever caught 2 guys doing it?
Oh my goodness. I have never seen it. I have never seen it. Thank God. Not saying there's anything wrong with you, however you want to express your love, but naturally I don't want to walk on anybody having sex. Especially in that setting, that's not really something that I want to go home and think about. But I have had to respond to 2. Oh, it's a very interesting story. There were these guys and they were behind the shower wall, which you have the shower and there's naturally a wall up that at least covers the guys, you know, bathing suit parts. Yep. And they were behind the shower wall, and an actual male sergeant is the one that caught them. And when they got caught, they were interlocked. When they got separated, one of the guys, I guess, was really holding it in, so he kind of used the bathroom all the way back to his bunk. Yeah.
You mean released himself?
Released himself.
She's such a goody-goody. Girl, tell the juicy details. She is a goody-goody, though.
That was interesting.
Did they get thrown in the hole for that?
They did. Yeah. They did, because you technically, in any case, whether it was consented or not, we have to always put
sexual misconduct is the charge. I have been thrown in the hole twice for that, and I guarantee you both times, and I have no reason to lie. Both times officers actually lied on me, and because that's the charge. You get charged with something within the prison the same way you do on the streets, and it's sexual misconduct. So for everybody, it's always saying like, why would they do that for you just kissing another girl? You know, that's because they charge it as a sexual misconduct, like it's an actual like sexual charge. Have you ever seen corrupt officers?
Oh, yes, definitely. In all types, shapes, and sizes. It doesn't matter how long they've been there. It doesn't matter what their race, religion, gender. You get them in every way. Some of them will be for bringing in things like cigarettes, drugs.
And why do they do that? And I've always get that question, why do officers do that? I know why, but I want you from your perspective.
Because it's easy. It's easy, and it's easy money, because the thing is that the money that they're making right now is really, like, as an officer, it is not worth what we're having to do.
I say that all the time in my videos. As much as I have a beef with the prison system, officers should be paid more. They should have more incentive. They are putting their lives at risk, whether people want to believe it or not. They are. They're in there with criminals who, most are criminals. You know, there is always that percentage that are innocent. They're in there with people that have nothing to lose. They don't care. Basically, more or less, they're getting paid from inmates' families or whatever.
Yeah, and I mean, it's so easy. It is. Like, for instance, technically, cigarettes are not contraband for us. As officers, we can bring in a pack of cigarettes, okay? So, and technically cigarettes are not illegal. You just cannot give them to inmates because then it becomes introduction to contraband.
Right. But if you drop a pack on the ground and an inmate picks them up, oh, I didn't... What? I dropped it.
Exactly. And see, that thing is that because, you know, it is a contraband item in a prison, you know, cigarettes, what we pay for cigarettes might be like, you know, $5, but yet you drop a $5 pack of cigarettes or a $3 pack of cigarettes, and that's $200 in your pocket.
Yeah.
That's how easy it is. That's how easy it is to make extra money. And think, if you did that every single day, that's about $1,000 in your pocket.
Yeah.
That you didn't even have to do anything for, but accidentally drop a pack.
Yeah.
You know, so, and when you
the drugs go for way more than that.
Oh, definitely. Drugs and cell phones, they go for way more.
Have you ever seen an inmate with a cell phone?
I have found cell phones, but I've never caught an inmate with an actual phone. I have found little cell phones.
Like what, having to do searches or whatever?
Yeah, having to do searches, cell searches, and dorm searches. I found a cell phone.
How do they charge their cell phones? I always wondered about that.
Well, the small cell phones, they run on batteries. So as long as inmates are allowed to have batteries, naturally they can buy them at the canteen.
For their headphones.
For their headphones.
Wow.
So they already have batteries. Now for smartphones, you know, it's so funny because most of these guys are really, really smart.
Brilliant.
It's
brilliant.
You know, it's so funny because, like, when I find out if I ever found something in their locker and it's just it's a charger for smartphones, because naturally you can't put a battery inside a smartphone. So it'll be a charger for a smartphone, and I'd be like, how did you make this? Like, what did you do before you came to prison?
Yes.
And they would be like, oh, I was a cashier at some place. And I'm like, how are you even in here right now? You're so smart.
Aww.
Like, I could never make this.
Yeah.
Not even if literally my life depended on it. Yes. I would electrocute myself. So they're able to make from wires, either from their headsets or their radios, and they can hook them up to like an outlet, and they can actually charge their smartphones.
That's incredible. I always say some of the most smartest, charismatic, artistic, good-looking people are sitting behind bars somewhere, and a lot of the times you have people that are inmates, just like she was talking about, who are incredibly creative, that are geniuses, but and this is not to make any excuses for people, but are a product of their environment and never had a fair chance, and they're sitting behind bars somewhere. And then you also have people that actually just don't care and do whatever they want to do, which, you know, so I definitely don't want to make excuses for everybody, but it is incredible. Some of the people that are in prison are like, just like she said, like, how are you here? Why are you not running a Fortune 500 company? Like, why were you selling drugs on the street when you could be doing this? You know?
I have no idea, because I have, you know, some of these guys are really, really smart. Like, when you take the time to talk to them, and they're brilliant. And I'm like, how are you even here right now? What are you doing with your life right now? Like, what happened? What happened? You are so smart. Some of them will have degrees, and I'm like, you have a degree. Like, what is your plans afterwards? Like, when you get out, what are you gonna do? Like, you already have a degree, you're smart, you're not dumb, you know, I mean, you have the potential. So what's your plan after this, or what got you into this?
Yeah. So I was gonna say, what is the worst crime of an inmate that you've ever seen in there?
Now, as COs, we are not allowed to
You're not supposed to look them up?
Well, we're not supposed to read their legal work.
Okay.
Now, I can look up and see their charges. We're not allowed to read their legal work, but we are allowed to skim. I know it's weird how it's worded.
Yes.
One guy, the worst I've ever heard of was this guy, And this is also one of those things where it's just so insane how our justice system works. It's just not even remotely fair. This guy was locked up because him and one of his homeboys were outside of a grocery store that I guess this girl worked at. When she came out, they hit her in the back of the head, stuffed her in the trunk, drove out to God knows where, raped her. They left her there to die. Luckily she didn't. But he only got 30 years. And see,
I got a story coming up for y'all real soon. Y'all remember she said this. Etch that in y'all's mind. Y'all remember she said that.
And I could not believe it, especially as a woman.
Yeah.
You know, as a female, I'm like, he raped her and y'all gave him, he raped her, he kidnapped her, assaulted her, raped her, and left her to die, and he got 30 years.
Wow.
And then they wonder in this society, why don't women speak out more? Because of stuff like this.
Yeah.
Like, there is a woman somewhere that knows in 30 years he's gonna get out for something that he should have just stayed in there for.
Yep. And every time she leaves her job or every time she goes out at night, she's probably looking around her, checking her surroundings, the PTSD from that kind of stuff. That's the stuff people don't think about. When something like that happens, it ruins you from then on out. Like, can you imagine every time, like, working a nighttime job after that, or maybe seeing somebody sitting outside your job at nighttime and not having a nervous breakdown? I mean, who could think something like that would happen?
She was having relations with an inmate. She was bringing him stuff. The thing is I want people to understand, it does not matter at all if these men are married or engaged or in a relationship, because they do not care. They do not care. That does not mean anything to them. It doesn't want to work there anymore because of how bad it's gotten. And the people that are working there are quitting.